Charge twice for your
Charge twice for your what? The chat asks. Yeah, sorry about that. There was an ad right before I was starting. I like to have the stream open on another window while we're doing the show. But anyways, hello everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Differently Wired Show, episode 45. What's the actual title for it? Exclusive jobs for Aspies. We'll get into the main topic and all that, the usual stuff that we do. But just first and foremost, as I'm sure you're all aware, my name is Max Danger Derrat. That is, in fact, my middle name. Your friendly neighborhood Simpsons Ken. And joining me, as always, he is PhD. He's got the skills that pay them bills. He is John Tucker. John, what's happening?
Good evening, Max. I'm very much looking forward to this exciting show. Wonderful stuff, wonderful guests, with a wonderful brand new day for folks who are differently wired. I think it's going to be a great show.
Yes, we're not going to let the oncoming winter troubles get to us. We're actually going to be instilling some hope, because as the mom says from Home Alone, this season is the season of perpetual hope. But before we actually get into the actual guests that we have today and what they want to talk about, we just got to do the usual stuff. And what is the usual stuff? You know what the usual stuff is. Facebook page. I know. There are people that are listening to this right now that haven't liked the Facebook page, and yet you have Facebook. That doesn't make sense. Just, it's so easy. All you have to do is just click a button. You do it every day. Just do it. Don't even think about it. Just do it. Just get like Shia LaBeouf or Nike or whoever, and just do it. Discord. We have a Discord server. John, we're almost at 900 members. I know I've been saying that. Well, I said that last week, but we're actually really, really close. If you guys want to, if you guys want to make my Christmas, if you want to give me a good, nice gift, if you haven't joined the Discord server, you can do that right now. You might be our 900th member. And what we tend to do whenever we hit those milestones is get everybody that's on the server to shower you with praise. So if you, I mean, like I love it when people shower me with praise. It happens on a daily basis, but
of
course, yeah, absolutely. Just make sure you click on the link down in the description box below if you want to join our Discord server. If you happen to be dealing with any mental health issues, or if you're on the spectrum and you need somebody to talk to, we have support structures on the Discord server. They're really easy to access. You just have to look for somebody's name on the right hand side of the screen, their name highlighted in green. You can message them and you can talk to them about whatever they want. That's what they're there for. We'd very much like to have you there so that you can continue to grow and enrich this already enriched community that we have. Also, I do have a Subscribestar account. In case you guys don't know what Subscribestar is, it's like Patreon, but just without all the shady stuff happening behind the scenes. If you like the work that I do in regards to my channel, or the work that John and I do with Differently Wired, please consider going over there and supporting us. If you do, there's various rewards at different tiers. If you spend as little as $1, you'll get rewards for it, or upwards of $10 or $20, you'll get increasing rewards depending on how much you donate. So please, if you like the stuff that we do here, please just, you don't have to donate right away, but we really appreciate if you go over there and take a look at what we have. And finally, just reminding you guys that there is in fact an after show, and that is one of the rewards that you get for subscribing on Subscribestar at the $2 tier. After the show is done at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, you can come and hang out with me and whoever else is subscribed at that tier and talk about whatever's on your mind. So with that out of the way, John, let's get to the main topic. So you suggested this particular organization to me a few weeks ago, and I was thrilled at the concept because I didn't even know that this sort of thing was possible. It's particularly thrilling for me, for somebody that's on the spectrum. But before we sort of detail who these people are, do you sort of just want to tell people how you came across these people and why you wanted to bring them on?
Well, Ali Dusso sent me a note asking us to chat and connect, and when I saw what she was talking about, I was really thrilled. The whole notion of an organization taking advantage of the incredible talents that Asperger's folks have, that autistic folk have, I guess I should say these days, and using them as strengths. We've known for quite a while that they're remarkable strengths, but sometimes the different wiring gets in the way of stuff. They go all the way around the corner to make it work. They reach out. I'm not going to tell their whole story, but I'm really excited to hear them tell that story, because what I've seen with the our recent chats is that it's a departure from the usual stuff. It is corporate business with a conscience. I love it. So that's what inspired me to
Yes.
suggest it.
Yes, more corporate businesses need consciences or consciousness. You get the point. Yeah, like John said, we're not going to do the talking for them. We'd like to get them to introduce themselves now. So, Garth and Derek, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Sure.
Either.
So my name is Garth Johnson, and I am the CEO of Auticon Canada. 6 years ago, we started a company called Meticulon Consulting in Calgary, with the idea that we would be able to tap into what we call the autism advantage in tech and deploy people who are on the autism spectrum as our colleagues in our company as a consulting firm to do quality assurance and software testing and a whole bunch of other things. I have a background in tech. I am not a technical person. I am a marketing biz dev type person. In my career, I helped build companies like iStock Photo and Adobe Stock Photo and things like that in the tech space. So I really love it. And I'm very glad to be here.
Well, we're very glad to have you. That sounds awesome. And also, so that was Garth. Derek, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Derek Tanner. I'm a second year, now that I think about it, software tester and programmer for Auticon Canada. I have a background, oddly enough, in biology and health sciences, where I did some research on vaccines shortly after graduating. All of this, of course, before I found my way to Garth and Auticon. And I'm currently contracted out with the company right now and happily employed.
Well, that's awesome. We're very, very much glad to have you. We figured it would be best to bring you guys on, not just because, like, obviously, the notion that you would try to help out a sort of section of society that is sort of struggling in terms of employment is great, but also it's great for my particular audience because, as I was mentioning before with my Discord server and obviously with the YouTube comments, I get in contact with a lot of people that are struggling to get any form of employment, as I'm sure you're well aware what the statistics are. So the fact that I'm able to give you guys a voice so that you might be able to speak to one or two of them, some of whom are actual geniuses I've spoken to, is a great privilege for me, the possibility that I might be able to help them out. So speaking of helping them out, before we started the show today, Garth, you sent me sort of a presentation that was filled with graphics that we could put on screen for people so that they could sort of figure out what Auticon is all about. So is this sort of like sort of a standard thing that you use whenever you're promoting Auticon to across the world to various organizations?
Yeah, it is. And, really the whole idea of promoting Auticon is about a neurodiversity team. It's the majority of our people are on the autism spectrum who work with us, but we love every one of us is neurally diverse, right? And so it's really about creating an inclusive company where people get to do what they're good at and everyone moves forward together. So it's not really my story. It's more Derek's story and my other colleagues' story who are on the spectrum. But we get the privilege of walking this journey with them.
Perfect. So just before we start going through some of the slides, if you could just indulge me really quickly, because there are certain members of my audience that tend to watch my videos that are more centered around video games, and they might be raising their eye at the name Auticon. Is there any chance that the name Auticon is inspired by a character from a video game series called Metal Gear Solid?
No, it's not. Although my 22-year-old did ask me the same thing. I mean, when we sold the consulting business division of Meticulon to Auticon last June, one of the things Connor asked me was, "What, where does that come from?" And I said, "Well, the name Meticulon was meticulous. It was meticulous consulting, and it was just an abbreviation. And actually, um, uh, the name Auticon comes from autist consulting, which is the company came from Germany, and that is the term for people with autism there. So it was merely an amalgamation that some branding person thought was good, but it would have been cooler if it had been.
Yeah, yeah, but we don't want to lie to people. It's but yeah, I found that sort of the synchronous, uh, what's the coincidence of it all. I had to ask about it just to make
Yeah,
sure.
I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get to the actual important stuff. So, first slide, I'm just going to bring it up on screen. Benefit from our autistic strengths for your IT and data projects. Now, obviously, there is sort of the stereotype, and the stereotype is sort of well founded that people that are on the autism spectrum tend to be setting the standards in the fields, the STEM fields specifically. Why is that exactly? Like based on what research and information you've come across?
Well, what I found in my career path was that there were many people who worked with us who, I'm in my 50s, and if you're in your 50s, you're probably not diagnosed on the spectrum.
Mm.
And even if you're in your 30s, chances are you're not. And so there were people with pretty unique gifts and abilities, precise attention to detail, an ability to focus that was out of the norm and above average, a need to complete sometimes visually eidetic skills. And I need to be 100% clear. Not all of our consultants, hardly any of them, I would say, are savants,
Mm.
geniuses. Most of them are just people who have unique gifts in unique areas. And we identified that along the way. And there's a few stories I could tell you that helped us figure that out. But uh, people like Derek have come to our team bringing, really talents and gifts. And it's not really so much about their resume. We have a unique assessment process that we help people figure out what they're going to be good at and what they're going to enjoy, and then what they're going to excel at. And so there are, at autism is not a processing error. It's a different operating system.
Yeah.
And it's really just a different way of perceiving the world that gives people a unique advantage in some of the areas that we work in. And therefore, why wouldn't you want them as your employee?
Yeah, absolutely. I just before we move on, I just sort of want to point out one thing that you just said that's important to keep in mind. Another stereotype is that people that have autism are all savants. It's not actually true, as you said. It's just when it comes to having autism, one thing that is quite common is the fact that people that are on the spectrum tend to have these very niche interests, and when you're able to exploit those in the best possible way, they are able to create a positive identity for themselves by being able to a lot of the time excel better than their neurotypical peers. It's just the fact of the matter of the way it works. Now, before we move on with the slides, Derek, I just got to bring you into this as well. Just based on what Derek said about sort of the process that they go through about hiring people that are on the spectrum and being able to use their talents, how was that process for you? And how is it going from, as you said, starting out as a biology student and then going to work for a company like Auticon?
Well, one thing that struck me initially, when I first did it, I was admittedly scared, and not just of Garth. He's intimidating when he wants to be.
Yeah, he's pretty scary. Yeah.
But it was the fear of, hey, I'm a biologist, and now I'm going to be switching, now I'm going to be switching careers. I mean, there's a lot of fear around that. I had no had I known then about the intake and evaluation process and the training process, I wouldn't have been anywhere near as nervous as I was.
Mm.
It was a very clearly laid out process of, we'll take you in. We're gonna spend some time working with you, evaluating you, see where your strengths, your weaknesses lie, um, get a feel for who you are as a person, and even then, at that early stage, I had the feeling they were already planning out. Okay, these kind of contracts would be good for Mr. Tanner here, and these kind of contracts, let's if he wants to try them out, we'll give him a shot at it. And as I said, after the evaluation was done, after they gotten to know me better as a person, then the training started, and the training was far different from what we would get in university, where you're just blasted with a wealth of material.
Yeah.
It was a very, very focused. It was a very focused set of training to get us started. This is what you need to get in to get at the ground level, to get so that you can be successful in your first contracts, and this is what we're going to train you in.
Okay. Okay, well, that's terribly good to hear, and it's something that I wish a lot more companies would sort of integrate into their hiring process. Like, I understand not everybody is neuroatypical like you and I, Derek, but it's just I wish that there was the option there, so that we can show that people that are on the spectrum can use their unique talents to the benefit of the entire company. Okay, now as I bring up the second, sorry.
I was going to say, before we move on from the first slide, Max,
Yeah.
there is this puzzle on it, which was designed by one of our colleagues on the spectrum. And we always say, if you can look at this and solve it in the first minute, you should come work for us.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I would try and do that right now. It's kind of tempting, especially because the three circles side by side. It's sort of reminiscent of a very important symbol from another video game that I cover on my channel called Silent Hill. People in the chat will know what I'm talking about. But yeah, maybe I'll have to actually give this a proper look at when we're done. So, sorry.
I said screen pause.
Yeah, screen pause. So before I'm going to bring up the second slide, but just while I'm doing that, John, I feel like I'm sort of doing all the talking. If at any time you want to jump in and say something, please don't hesitate to interrupt me, please.
No, move along.
Okay. So what do we have here on the second slide here? Yeah, so like you said here, autism isn't a processing error, it's another operating system. Absolutely agree. It goes to what we were just saying about how we have unique strengths that can be exploited. It's just sometimes they're not as obvious, right, Derek? And
yeah. And I mean, really, this slide is just sort of it's an introductory slide really to the next one, which is really just about our global vision. We will be in 11 countries by the end of 2020, and it's our goal to create 1,000 jobs for people on the spectrum.
Nice.
Along the path. So it's good to have clear-cut goals, but it's not really about just creating those jobs. It's about becoming the very best IT consulting firm in whatever fields we're in. And it's not, most of our colleagues don't really need help; they need opportunity. And so for us, this slide, especially when we're presenting this to business clients, it's part of our vision is that we are part of a movement to change the perspective of autism as a disability to something that is seen as just a different ability. And it's going to take some time, and it's really hard work. This is the hardest job I've ever had. But it's really important to frame this for businesses in the framework of this is a good thing to do for business. It's not just a good thing to do for people. Because businesses, if they don't get a return on their investment, as my friend Rich Donovan says, a return on disability in this case, when you're involved in this world, they won't do it in any meaningful way. And the only way to do that is to have the right person in the right job in the right company. And it's not really about, helping Johnny get a job. It's about, building careers for people where they're actually contributing and feel like they are, and they're being rewarded for that. It's super important for us to do that. All of our people earn 100% of market wages. Nobody earns under market for what they do with us, and that is often a problem.
Derek said something I'd like to pick up on and explore a little, if I may.
Sure.
he talked about the training and the process of entry. Now, typically in the workforce, if you want a job in a field, you get a degree in that field, you become expert in that field, then you compete with others in that field, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
It seems like you're turning that upside down. Derek seemed to allude to a training process whereby you not only provide an opportunity, but you help people get into the thing. You give them specific training to do this kind of work. So I notice in our chat room, a number of people are saying, oh, I don't know if I could do that. I can't add, or I can't do this. But it seems to me I don't have to be an expert in IT to actually have an opportunity to work with Auticon.
That's correct. So our intake process and evaluation process measures capacity and capability, not degrees.
Hmm.
And then after we've identified what people have as baseline capacity skills, we then put them into a what is now a 2-week assessment process where they go through about 50 different exercises as a group, and we identify unique skills and abilities. And we are not even that time, Derek. What I can't remember, but what is the percentage of the assessment that really is tech? Maybe 20.
If I remember correctly, and I was on the older version of the assessment, but we only had a day out of that process that was actual pure tech.
Right. And so
Wow.
what we're trying to do is build out a mind map of skills and abilities. And we are looking for, especially people who have got university degrees in comp sci and other things where, the training that we're going to do with them is going to be more about getting to know them than it is equipping them. But some of our best people are like Derek, who didn't come to us from a tech background at all. We have somebody who came to us with just high school and a learning disability who absolutely killed the job that she does with us. So,
Wow.
it's really about identifying that skill set and then empowering that skill set. But make no bones about it. If you've got a master's degree in comp sci or cyber security or business intelligence, we want you. Well,
You got to go through
There's
the
lots
process.
of room for everybody who's capable.
correct.
Well, with that knowledge in mind, hi, Garth. My name's Max. I have great pattern recognition. By the way, I was just about to solve that problem at the very beginning. Having done lots of IQ tests in my time. But no, seriously, that's really good to know because
You are a shameless hussy.
oh, come on, John. Like we've done 45 shows with me. I mean, you should know this by now. But
I absolutely do. Yeah, of course.
It's part of my charm. But no, that's really good to hear, Garth. Because as as we'll get more into as we go along, there is a reality of unemployment and underemployment, and not everybody is in tech, but there is still nevertheless opportunities and things that people can participate in, even if they don't have a tech background. Okay,
Correct.
So let's move on to the third one here. Auticon, global leader in IT employment of individuals with autism. Employees worldwide, 200, and you said you're going to go for 1,000 by 2023. Is that what you said?
We're currently north of 240 right now since the slide was created.
Nice.
And we are in Canada are looking to add 36 this year in 2020. 3 markets. We are currently open in Calgary, and we were open in Montreal, and we will be open in another market that we aren't talking about just yet.
Antarctica.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'd go there. Heck yeah, I'd go there.
We're opening Auticon Nunavut, and
it's gonna be huge. Trust us.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. We're gonna be testing. I have no idea temperatures.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and so globally, we've just opened in Australia. So Richard Branson, who is one of our key investors and backers, flew over there and did a whole bunch of PR for us. And he's a person with a neurodiverse ability as well. He has quite bad dyslexia, and at a time in life when nobody understood what that was, and gets what this journey is about, and the habits of what we've done. Australia, soon to be Asia. I'm volunteering personally to open the New Zealand office in 2022, and if we go there, because there and I have to do the Lord first. So,
of course.
Of course.
But yeah, so that's the vision. And you also see here the areas of consulting, which we'll get into in a bit more detail later. Um, we aren't focused just on software testing and QA or software development. Any area where it requires in business where it requires precise attention to detail, ability to deal with large data sets, analyze numbers, or have visual eidetic skills like pattern recognition. There's lots of arenas where unique gifts of people on the spectrum can be used to great advantage, and it's some people will say things like take advantage of or leverage. We don't like those terms because I don't like it if I'm taken advantage of or leveraged. I think it's just really about finding where people have their own gifts. I have got ADHD for sure. I am not an organized human. Um, and I need someone to help me on certain things, but I'm really good at the stuff that I do and I love doing it. And it takes a while to fall into it. It took me until my 30s to find my way. So, it's a journey for all of us.
I like to say that I'm not being taken advantage of. The companies are investing in me.
Mm. It really seems like it is. I'm really impressed with the stuff that I've seen so far. Just before we move on, let's see. There was somebody here that. Oh, Ethan S. in the chat says, I have an associate's in applied sciences. Intelligence gathering is my specialty. Does that sound like somebody you would want to hear from?
Yes. Info at auticon.ca.
Okay, just let's say it again. Info at auticon.ca. Ethan, if you're at all interested, make sure you get in touch with them.
Yeah, or the US or wherever. We'll connect you around the world. But absolutely. And we are moving very heavily into cyber and security analysis for insurance companies and banks. It's a real growth area, and it's very, very hard to get people who are good at this job. And we think people on the spectrum can actually excel at this job. So
awesome. And Lady Payne, who's one of our members of our support squadron on Discord, she's very happy that you're coming to Australia. Just letting you know about that. Okay. So slide 4. Oh, I guess these are some of your employees.
Yeah, this is our crew from Los Angeles.
Cool.
And we use these kinds of slides to bring a bit of a human piece to this because often people will say things to us like, oh, those people or they, and it's like, no, us. This is us. And this crew worked on a dream job. If you are familiar with Wizarding World online, Warner Brothers online Harry Potter environment, they did all of the QA and killed it. And for some of these people, this was absolutely the culmination of passion and career. And now they're moving on to another secret project for them. So they all work together. There's 2 offices in LA, and there's a bunch of these people who none of these people had jobs in tech before they came to work with us.
Oh, that's so cool. Imagine it'd be awesome for these people, considering I, along with them, are sort of the Harry Potter generation where that's all we grew up reading. So being able to work on something like that sounds, like you said, a dream come true.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on to the 5th slide. Auticon consultants, how we change the lives of our consultants. Oh yeah, so this was actually kind of cool. Just to some of the people that were wondering how the process works and where you can come from and where you can end up with Auticon. You sort of want to go over that, Garth?
Yeah. So Derek, why don't you talk a little bit about what the process was like for you and coming through it and sort of, at top level, how it worked. And you weren't working in biology even when you came to us.
No, unfortunately, I was one of the victims of the economy crash in Calgary. Yeah. So I was barely keeping a roof over my head, and there were days I was going without food, just doing temp labor before I hooked on with Auticon.
Oh. And then the process was, what was the process? Maybe tell people a little bit about the interview, the screening. What was it like?
So after I made my application to Auticon, you guys were really good at keeping up with me, keeping me up to date, letting me know if things were going. I was even, and I'll say right now, interviews are my weakest point. Always have been, and I've struggled with them for the longest time. So I was most nervous for the interview with my with the intake staff, but it was really good. They made me feel very comfortable. It went far better than I imagined it would. And then I think from interview to evaluation was less than 2 weeks.
Probably.
Yeah. Uh,
So we
and
use a tool.
sorry.
We use a tool called CEBIR, that CEBIR, that assesses people's innate skills in 5 different test areas: visual language, math, and don't freak out because I said math. There's 5 different areas.
It's like you read my mind.
Yeah, that takes a day, right, Derek?
Yeah. It takes about a day. Yeah.
And then based on those outcomes, we select people to come through the screening process. We do these 54. We always say we do very illogical things to logically minded humans. And what we're really trying to figure out at this point is what people's challenges are that may have prevented them from achieving the career success and path that they wanted, and how we're going to help and support them through that, and how we're going to help and educate any client that we take on how to interact. So sometimes it's language, sometimes it's anxiety, those sorts of things. And Derek, and every person who comes through the process ends up with what we call an employment coordinator, who has a job coaching function. And we have job coaches for all of us. I have a job coach. Everyone has one. That process really provides that baseline structure of support. But so Derek, how was that for you?
It's actually been, it was completely different from what I originally imagined it would be. I honestly thought I was going to be I honestly thought you guys were going to keep me on a tight leash, but the moment you figured out what would work best for me, it was actually nothing like that. It's more they're just there for when I need to check in, or for if I need the extra resource. And in my case, I'm lucky. I don't need that much support in the office. And I so it's mainly I just check in on a regular basis, and it's less when I check in it's less actually checking in with my boss at work, and it's more just checking in with a coworker, or not so much a friend, but more of a formal. We'll just have to go with coworker. I apologize.
No, I know what you mean.
Failing me right now.
An acquaintance.
Yes.
Yeah, sort of like that. Okay. Yeah. Well, that sounds great. I'm just one thing sort of just jumped out to me that I wanted to ask you about. As I'm just looking at these 2 examples here, obviously the thing that jumps out to me, highlighted in bold, is that both of the consultants that are highlighted here were unemployed for several years. Same thing as you were just talking with you, Derek. I understand if you can't get into specificities, but in regards to the people that you've interviewed for Auticon, how common is a past history of unemployment for the people that you bring on, or more broadly, how similar, when you've talked to these people, even just beyond unemployment, how similar have you found that the lives of people working for Auticon are overall? Because I found that when I've talked to people in my audience, it's almost like our lives share congruity down to specific events. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the sad statistic in Canada is that 85% of educated and employable people on the autism spectrum do not have a job in what they've trained to do.
Yeah. And
of the 15% that do have a job, most were like Derek, not working in what they were trained to do. And universally, we have a very common experience. Someone comes to us, they have a very timeline broken resume, lots of gaps, changes, sometimes periods of success for a certain amount of time, then unemployment. And there are lots of reasons for that. And the predominant reason for it, in my opinion, is that the interviewing and hiring process is broken for all of us.
Yep.
And it doesn't really measure whether you can do the job. It's all about how do you sell yourself, and against some funny invisible grid that people are being evaluated in a 20-minute interview, where you have to basically please the person or say exactly the right thing. And I can give you a short story of how that went down for us, our very first placement. We were placing someone who had 2 degrees, one in literature and one in math. And he had not ever had a job in a career pathway. And we went in to place him with a client. And he was going to be doing a testing job, not software testing, a device software testing, unit testing, and or not unit, ladder logic testing. And the HR person, I said, don't ask our colleagues soft questions because you'll get hard answers. Mm-hmm. So, these typical questions like, what's your greatest weakness? Or tell me about a time when you face conflict. And like all these rubbish questions that are meant to screen and pull out something invisible that you're unsure what they're looking for.
Yeah.
And the HR person in the meeting asked our colleague, tell me why we should hire you over the other consultants that we're considering for this position. And before I could jump in and say anything at all to clarify, because we always sit in the interview as part of the process, and mostly just to facilitate communication, never to answer questions on behalf of our colleagues. My colleague replied before I could say anything immediately, that is an unfair question. I don't know who the other consultants you're considering are.
That's exactly what I thought he was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah. And he said, if you give me a copy of their resume and tell me about their work history, I will give you an assessment as to whether or not I'm the best candidate.
Perfect.
And the faces on the other side of the table were like you just thought they didn't know what to do with that. And I said, so this is a soft questions. And I said, what they're asking you is, to tell them why you would be best at this job and why you'd succeed. And he said, well, why didn't they ask me that?
Yeah. I mean, like,
very logical. Yeah. Max, I got to interrupt. You have a wonderful story about an interview with a famous broadcasting company and a job interview that went sideways. Could you take a moment to tell that?
Yeah,
beautiful story.
I was just about to say that. Thank you for bringing that up, John. It's like I said, 45 shows in, it's like we're sharing a neural link or something. Yeah.
Oh no.
Sorry, what? Oh no.
Oh yes.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Oh no. Oh yes. All right. Yeah. It's a story that I've shared a lot on the show in my past videos, but it bears repeating. In the first video that I did as a part of my Truth About Asperger's Syndrome series, I detailed an experience that I had going in for an interview with the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, the CBC. And I was going in there as an intern because I had been in university at the time for production in regards to audio and video. And I despite the fact that I have autism and I tend to display these different traits quite vociferously, intentionally or otherwise, I managed to do well enough so that apparently they noticed that I had all the qualifications when I was speaking to them, but ultimately I didn't get the position. And when I called back to the guy that was interviewing me afterwards to see what it is that I did wrong or how I can improve in the future, with God as my witness, this is what he said. He said, well, you have all the qualifications, but you didn't look us in the eye during the interview. And that's why I lost the internship position. Because as Garth and Derek have been so eloquently demonstrating, it's the fact that the hiring process isn't constructed in a way so that it's inclusive of neuroatypicals and taking into account their legitimate strengths, but it is sort of based around these general questions that, doesn't take people like us into account. It's a shame.
Yeah, exactly the problem.
So, God bless you guys for taking this sort of stuff into account and trying to evaluate people based off of their legitimate strengths instead of just going based off of these softball questions that receive answers that can mean anything. And I hope, you guys are, I'm sure you guys are the types of people that would realize that when you get a kind of response from the guy that you just mentioned, that you wouldn't see that as odd. You would sort of see that guy as demonstrating a legitimate quality, which is honesty. And what is, it's probably one of the best types of qualities you could probably get from an employer.
Yeah.
Or an employee, I mean.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. So just before we move on, I just realized we've the time has flown by. We only have 10 minutes left in the show. So I just wanted to, yeah, ML O'Toole in the chat says CBC's lost, Max. The people, well, we have
ML
the
O'Toole also asks, do you work with Auticon? And no, not yet.
No, not yet. Not yet.
It occurs to me, I should mention that this is such an exciting and great thing, and I don't want us to feel rushed in the presentation. So maybe we could have a part B sometime if you guys are up for that.
Yeah, please. If you want to, we'd love to have you guys come back.
But we can just make a soft stop when it's time to leave and come back and talk a little more.
Anytime. You know, I think a lot of people out there in your community probably have a lot of questions, and we would love to answer them for them rather than just talk about how great we are.
Yeah, we're seeing these in the chat room now.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah, so let's just do that for the remainder of the show. So, guys, if you're listening to us live right now, I could see how many people are watching live right now. John, do you see?
It looks like about 60.
About 60
that are live.
Okay, so guys, if you have any questions for Garth and Derek while we still have them, please fire them into the chat right now, and we'll go through as many as possible. But don't feel bad if you if you don't happen to get your question in today, because as we were just discussing, we would love to have.
Crossway has a great question. A couple of great questions. One that pops out to me is, how do you guys help your employees retain a respectable position and standing with the client? As well as how do you protect them as well as your business? Like, what safeguards are in place for your?
So that is probably a topic for the follow-up show. We have a very detailed process. It is part of our secret sauce. And it's really not about our colleague. It's mostly about the client and managing that structure.
Okay, then that's obviously worth more time in a follow-up show.
Yeah, there's no way we're going to get through that sort of thing in the next 8 minutes.
Okay.
Great question. It's a great question, and it's very valid.
A number of people in the chat room are saying, please do a part 2. So some of the folks that are watching the show are very excited about this, and it's kind of new to them, and it's as inspiring to them as us. And there are a few people here, I think, who will be checking with you on your website.
Yeah,
looking at opportunities.
We'll make sure to put in your information in the description box as soon as we're done. J. Alexander Douglas writes, any room for creative types, artists, designers, content development, etc.?
Absolutely. So a big part of some of the work that we do is user design, user interface, those types of things within our company. We have used graphic designers from the spectrum to help us with our work. So there is absolutely a space, and actually a lot of the work that we do is very creative. It's not all rote and mindless. Like, one of the things that we're trying to overcome is that people think that because people like detail, they have no creativity. That is completely false. And the best testers are the ones who think out of the box. The best coders are the ones who think things through in a way that others haven't. So there is a space. There isn't a space specifically with our company doing creative work, but there definitely is opportunity, and there's no reason why, over time we won't branch into other areas of consulting that include that. But like UI and UX, if you're a creative person, you want to work in tech, that's where you're going to find your love.
And just because you sign up for one type of skill doesn't mean you're tied to that type of contract. I've been on 3 different contracts, some programming, some testing, and I have some say in what contracts that I would like to go after next when the current contract is up.
Correct, 100% correct.
Well, hold on, there's just a question that popped up here. Zachary Cross wants to ask, how does a CSC major, I guessing, what is that, computer science? What does CSC stand for? Oh, well, anyways, he says, how does a CSC major focusing on cybersecurity sound?
Sounds like you should work with us.
Hint, hint. This Ethan S says, this community has been amazing since the day I found Max and John, some of the best people I've ever encountered online. Well, thank you. I definitely agree with that, Ethan. That's a great thing about our audience, John. Not only are they kind,
Of course you do.
Yeah, they're not only kind, but they're also very smart.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's see. What else? There was one other...
this raises an interesting idea. I'm hearing that there's not a particular limit to the number of people that can apply or work with Auticon. You don't have like a hard ceiling of numbers.
Oh no. I mean, the ceiling we have is contracts.
So the sky's the limit. If you can find the clients and connect people up, it's bigger and bigger. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're moving into a realm where we're growing by word of mouth on the client front. And
right.
Clients are like, we have some amazing clients, WestJet and Morgan Stanley and some others that Solium Capital, which is now part of Morgan Stanley, that are out there evangelizing for us. And we're telling people you'll get 60% more productivity out of your people when you hire Auticon. And from a business perspective, that's very good. If we don't have to go out and advertise and our clients are doing it for us, we're exceedingly happy.
And plus another benefit on top of that, considering all the talk that we hear in the media increasingly nowadays about the importance of diversity, not only do you actually have an employee that you can hire onto your company that can do, as you say, Garth, increase their productivity exponentially, you also have that extra box sort of ticked off. It's obviously not as important, but it's an added bonus, I suppose you could say.
Yeah, I mean, we're a country that believes in the mosaic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have the mosaic in our workforce.
Crossray, he says, this sounds a lot like Specialistern, a company once in Denmark and Germany that did the same thing in making a software company geared towards the spectrum. Have you ever heard of something like that?
I know them. They are different than us. We are a for-profit enterprise. They are a good organization, and they have done a lot of good in the world. I know Torkel, the founder, and they are out there. The biggest difference, I think, is that we are a business, and we are about doing the actual work directly ourselves. And they are a not-for-profit that works with organizations to help them diversify their workforce.
Awesome. Okay. I haven't heard about them, but that sounds awesome. Okay, we're just actually about to end the show. John has to go in like 2 minutes, but before we do, I just figured, like we said, we will continue this maybe next week or the week after, whenever you guys are available. But before we let you go, is there anything that you sort of want to plug in terms of social media or where people can reach you before we end?
Well, if they go to auticon.ca, www.auticon.ca, they can learn more about us. That takes them to the global site as well. And I think, also, if you're interested in working for us in Canada, there is a link there to contact us. We are trying to recruit 100 people in 2020. So, that's a big goal, and it's going to be a challenge, but the opportunity is there. So please reach out.
Awesome. What about you, Derek?
I go with what I always like to say is don't give up hope. As you can see right here, new opportunities for people with autism are coming, and don't give up hope. Keep trying. Keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm. That's important. That's an important thing that I actually want to drive home, Derek, is the fact that there is hope out there for people that are on the spectrum, as bleak as certain things might seem from time to time. And there are people out there, and I've said this in past shows and in past videos, there are people out there, sometimes even complete strangers, that would be willing to do anything to help people like us, people that truly understand the stuff that we've been through. And Auticon is a wonderful, wonderful example of something like that. And I hope that more people will be willing to follow the example that Auticon has set in the future. Yeah, so I think that does it for now. I look forward to bringing you guys on later. Just before we end the show, I just want to ask the people that are listening right now 2 things. There are 61 people watching live right now and only 44 likes. If you guys have liked any of the stuff that we talked about today and you think it's important, make sure you hit that like button, because when you do, it tells the YouTube algorithm that the content that we have on this channel is worth watching. And there might be people out there that are on the spectrum and might be one of the 85% of people that are unemployed or underemployed. They come across this video and it might be the saving grace that they need. So please make sure you hit that like button. It really does help us out. And finally, guys, to the people that are watching in the chat right now, just make sure you leave your thanks to Garth and Derek, just for coming on and doing this with us. It's been an absolute privilege. And in light of that, I'd also like to thank you guys directly for taking time out of your day to come and promote this wonderful, wonderful business. And hopefully we can continue to do more stuff regarding Auticon and promoting your stuff, and create a brighter future for people that are on the spectrum.
Thank you for having us. We would love to come back and do anything we can to help the community.
All right, perfect.
Great. Thank you, guys.
All right, so until we do this again next week, guys, I just want to remind you, as always, don't forget, stay yellow. Stay yellow.